The children and the father all work together with the women in order to make cakes. This word cake is the Hebrew word kavan and means sacrificial bread and is offered up to Ishtar, Easter. Today, this heathen practice is still observed by placing crosses on them that stems from the hieroglyphs, hot cross buns. Read Ezekiel chapter 8, verse 15 through 18. More proof. Okay, now, the people are unknowingly worshiping another false god. Yahweh the Christ told us how to pray, and in Luke 11, verse 2 through 4, and at the end of Matthew 6, 9 through 13, the translators added Amen, and should never be added or said to the end of any prayer, because it is the name of an Egyptian god, meaning hidden, and is mentioned in Nahum chapter 3, verse 8, etc. It comes from Strong's 527 Aman. And have you noticed that it is always a capital A, verifying a noun? Yahweh told us not to mention the names of other gods. Another thing is the obelisk, which is said to be where the sun god Amun-Ra is claimed to reside in. There are 3 cities or states, a country within a country, in the world that have an obelisk. Vatican, the city, Washington, D.C., the district of communism, and London, or the center of. Bear in mind that during the time the Israelites were in bondage in the land of Egypt, this custom crept into the minds of our race. The words signs and wonders in Jeremiah 32, verse 20 are called shems, and in ancient Sumer it was mu, hence the term or name Shamu, i.e. Sham Mu, and means a fiery sky chamber, and is attached with the word stali in ancient Babylonian writings, and are stone pillars erected in memory of Mu, today called obelisks, and are found all over the world, but the 3 I mentioned earlier are of greater importance. Although Shem comes from 8064 and means heaven, disguise, heap up, and preserve a conspicuous position as a marker or memorial by implicating authority, renown. So as I lay down a platform of understanding, we can see that these races of people and their culture gives a witness to a degree with the written word of Yahweh. So getting back to Genesis chapter 1, we find the word waters in the plural, and is the Hebrew word mayim, to cause mayhem, and means water, juice, urine, semen, piss, wasting water, course, flood, and spilling. This maybe is why there was a great destruction brought upon the peoples of the earth, as spoken of in Jeremiah 4. The fornication and face painting, and of the gold they put on. Setaniel was moving from planet to planet, Job chapter 2, looking for precious metals, such as silver and gold, or alchemy. Setaniel would take the silver and grind it into dust, and coat his physical body with the dust of silver, as to appear like he was still a body of light. Silver gives off a greater reflection of light than that of gold, or shine. Although the other angels that followed him in his insane revolt also lost their bodies of light, and used gold dust to coat themselves, so that they would appear to shine as before the fall, but not as bright as Setaniel. And this may account for why non-white races and their cultural writings or pictoglyphs speak of a golden age. Remember that this took place in the first Earth Age or Precambrian era, although some did escape the slaughter and hid underground before Michael, an anglicized version of Metatron, came with his starships and opened fire upon the inhabitants of the earth. These people had built underground cities, so an aerial attack by the fleets of Michael flying overhead would not likely see any ventilation systems from the ground to sustain life in the earth. They continued to live underground and multiply. This race was the Nero and Dero, standing a total of 3 to 4 feet tall. They had built an elaborate underground railway to travel at fast rates of speed. This was also possible from the salvage of ships and machinery that was left behind. As it says, the birds of heaven fled. Today, some of this race walks the face of the earth. The Hopi Indians say that they were taken underground by the ant people and live among them for several centuries. And we know under Peru that there are massive sized tunnels that run for thousands of miles and stretch as far north as central California, and most likely dates back 1,000,000 years or more. These caves or tunnels go as deep as 800 feet, with smooth walls, and some rooms were so large that you could put an entire football stadium inside, and has good ventilation with winds moving 5 miles per hour or so. Keep in mind that the Hopi are pre-Adamic, and is not the same as the races of people spoken of by Jeremiah chapter 4. This may account for the last 10 chapters of the book of Ezekiel not matching up with the writings of John the Revelator. In Ezekiel chapters 38 through 34, we read of heathen living among the Israelites, side by side with one another. But in Revelation, only Israel lived among each other. So in short, Ezekiel chapter 38 through 34 must speak of the past and not of the future, like John does in the kingdom of Yahweh. Consider the planet Uranus, possibly being where the Asians came from. We know that in northern Africa is where a Negro tribe called Dogon. This Dogon race of people speaks of a fish god that came and taught them the stars, and reminds them they came from the dog star system, particularly Canis Minor. This Negro tribe looks to Sirius or Sirius as their home planet and waits for Dagon to return to take them back, not realizing Dagon is confined to this earth and is now at the bottom of the ocean floor. We read of Jonah being taken by Dagon for 3 days, and when Jonah was set ashore, it was witnessed by the people of Nineveh. Remember, Nineveh was a city located on the coast and thrived by fishing the sea. Now, just to let you know that the people of Nineveh, although were white, along with some non-white, they worshiped the fish god Dagon. And when, seeing Jonah getting out of a ship he was in for 3 days, was a very easy task to convince them to turn from their wicked ways. Isn't Yahweh great? Over the past few years or so, I've noticed that the dog star appears to be moving closer, which tells me the polar cycle has ended or is close to the end. The aligning of the planets allows the star system to be closer together, and therefore when the time comes they won't have far to travel back to this star system. Yahweh says they will flee from whence they came. I know, most people say that just means the Negro will return back to Africa. But they're wrong, because Yahweh says that this planet will belong to us, and with the other 400